I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York. I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast.
So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all grown up? Who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're over us? Yeah.
This week on the show, we have actress and director Tina Parker. Most of the world became aware of Tina in the role of Francessca Liddy, secretary to Saul Goodman on Breaking Bad, and then again on Better Call Saul. But Parker has over 50 films and TV shows to her credit. Parker is also the co-artistic director of the Kitchen Dog Theater, which has been putting on theater productions for over 30 years in DFW. This company is essentially homeless at the moment, so Tina talks about the out-of-the-black box theater concept with innovative and immersive shows on the horizon this season. Tina is charming and so much fun in this interview. I hope you enjoy it. Here it is. I am sitting here at Deep Elm Community Center with Tina Parker, who is an actress. She's a director. She is the co-artistic director for Kitchen Dog Theater.
Yep.
So thanks for being here.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
This place is amazing.
Yes, it is very cool.
Everyone needs to come down here.
Yeah, and I honestly, now that I have the headphones on, I'm like, this is going to be some of the best audio we get because it's so soundproof. Last time we had, they had a meeting downstairs. It was in a different room. It was
okay.
a little commotion.
Yeah, it's amazing here.
So let's just start out like I do every one of these. You're from Dallas.
I am.
Grew up here, went to SMU.
I did.
So you spent your whole life here, basically?
Well, I would say I most of it.
Okay.
I went to high school in Carrollton.
Okay.
You know, Newman Smith Trojans represent green and gold. So
Nice.
terrible. That's where I went to high school, and then went to SMU.
Okay.
Back in the covered wagon days, and got a major in theater and a minor in art history. So I'm very marketable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like you've done more with your theater degree than me.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And so that's how we connected with the guys who founded Kitchen Dog. So the
Right.
founders of Kitchen Dog were MFAs. Well, when I was a BFA. And so while I didn't found the company, I was actually at SMU at the same time as those guys. We overlapped for 3 years. So yeah, that's my how I got kind of hooked into Kitchen Dog, because I started seeing their shows early, and then.
So you were like a senior when they had already left or something like that?
Yeah, they left when I was a junior. They
Okay.
graduated when I was a junior MFA program. They founded the company, and then their first show was in. And this will tell everyone old. Their first show was in 1991 when I graduated from SMU.
Right. Okay.
And it was actually not far from where we're sitting, because it was the attic space above Dave's Art and Pawn, just next door to here. And it was air conditioned in May, so it was very sweaty and fantastic. But that's how they got their start, was literally next door to here.
Yeah, I normally go more in chronological order, but this is a good place to start.
Sure.
So I did a little bit of research. So you had spaces at different times, and then it goes away, or how's that? What's that history?
So we, like most theater companies that are starting out, they were founded, did shows, and they didn't have their own space. So they kind of moved around a lot, and we were, like I said, above in an attic above a pawn shop. I think they also performed at an Episcopalian church at one point. But mainly we kind of shuffled between our friends over at the Undermain Theater. Everybody should go and support the Undermain, celebrating 40 years this year down on Main Street. So we were their space, and then there was a place called the Stone Cottage that's in Addison, and it's under the Water Tower Theater umbrella. And so we kind of rotated between those two spaces. My first show with Kitchen Dog was in 93, and it was out at the Stone Cottage in Addison. And then this amazing couple founded the MAC, the McKinney Avenue Contemporary, on McKinney Avenue, before it was what it is now. There was really nothing around it at the time.
Oh, okay.
And they had this dream of having an art space, a visual art space, as well as theater space. And we were fortunate at the time because one of our board members was good friends with them. They're like, oh, you need to check this company out. They're right in your wheelhouse. They do the kind of work you like, kind of edgy, social justice, kind of cool plays. And they came and met with the founders and loved it and invited them to be the resident company at that space. And so we were at the MAC for 20 years, for a long time, until the space went away. The space went away, I guess, 2015. And then we've kind of been in a transition, so to speak, since then. So we've been in a lot of different spaces.
Yeah.
Right now, we did purchase a building. We decided to keep trucking because we had to sit down and have a come to Jesus. What are we going to do without a space? Because it's hard. I mean, there's just everything is at a premium, and you can't always book a full season. And how do you get people to realize that you're still open? That kind of thing. And so we decided to keep trucking. We started a capital campaign. We were able to buy a building, crazily enough, in the northern edge of the design district at the end of 16, beginning of 17. And we had just enough money to buy it. And we were able to get a little loan and buy it, which is amazing that we did.
Yeah.
Because we got it for under $1 million. And it's like a 10,000 square foot warehouse. And so then we started raising money to renovate it because, it's not a theater. So we still had to rent spaces to perform and keep trucking. And then COVID happens. And that slowed everything down. And then you're just stay alive. And so now, and during COVID times, we actually, the little bit of money we had, the nut we had saved to renovate, we actually paid off our loan. So we own the building outright now. So at least that's good.
Oh, that's very good.
It's an asset. It's an asset on our sheet.
I wish we had video right
man.
now.
And it's worth twice what we paid for it. Because everybody wants that property, and everybody comes over and is like, I'll buy it from you. And it's like, if we sell it, we will no longer be a company. But we can if we have to.
Yeah, it's a good neighborhood now. I mean,
it's crazy how much it's changed. I mean, there's really, and we're on the northern edge, some people are like, is it the designers? I'm like, it is. Because it's before Inwood, okay?
Right.
But just barely. But yeah, so now it looks like we're finally about to start tearing it up in about a month.
Oh, nice.
And renovating it. So hopefully next season, which will be our 34th, we'll be in the new space.
Okay. I did a little looking up on the website. I am intrigued by these two shows that you have coming up.
They're crazy.
What is it? Wait, don't tell me. Safe at Home and Shape.
Yeah.
So Safe at Home, I used to be a huge baseball fan. I kind of...
You would love it then.
Yeah. But tell us about it a little bit.
Sure. So because we're homeless, essentially, or unhoused this season, we decided that because the rental space that we were using, it also went away. And so we're like, whoa, what are we going to do here? And we knew that our building was in the distance. We weren't going to be, it wasn't going to be able to be renovated in time for us to start next season. So we decided to lean into that. And we jokingly call it the out of the black box season.
Oh, no,
because,
I like that.
Well, because, sometimes you just got to look at a challenge and be like, it's an asset. So all these shows are immersive experiences so far. The first one, which will happen first week of December 7th through the 10th, very limited run, because baseball stadiums aren't cheap to rent. But it's a cool play called Safe at Home. It'll be its second ever production. It's by two guys, Gabriel Green and Alex Levy. And it centers around both politics, baseball, and the American dream. And it's timely, I would say, but also just like nothing you've probably ever experienced in the theater. How it works is there are 9 scenes. They're exactly 7 minutes. It's a huge cast. It's 18 people, which is a lot for us. And each scene takes place at a different location in the ballpark. So as a patron, you'll check in. You'll be assigned a pod. And your pod is led by your tour guide, which also will throw out some baseball fun facts. It's actually really cool. And then you go in there, you see the scene. Let's say you start in the press room, and then you just keep going to different scenes. You'll be in a luxury suite. You'll be in the men's bathroom. You'll be in a concession area. You'll be in a dugout at some point. You'll be in the players' locker room. You'll get to go to areas that, I don't know. I'm also, I know a lot of times people are like, arts people, sports, that doesn't work. And I'm like, I love sports.
Oh, yeah.
Personally. And so when we got to tour the space, I was like, oh, because they were the Rough Riders were still in season.
Right.
So I was still like, oh, look at all the things. Like you just don't get to go in these areas, right? Or like,
yeah.
here's the players' weight room. And you're like, oh, yeah. So you do get to come there, and it's just strange.
Right.
So you get really strangely geeked out. It's, I think it's kind of like what it would be, going backstage and going behind a set. And like to somebody who doesn't see it every day, they're like, oh, whoa, this is how you do it. And oh man, how you run this, that's where the cue comes from. And you're like, yeah. So it was just kind of seeing behind the curtain in a baseball stadium.
Yeah.
And that's what these audience get to experience. So
that sounds
so the actors stay in place.
Yeah.
And if I was the actor in the scene, my 7-minute scene, I would do it 5 times, let's say, because we'd have 5 pods that night of 20 people or whatever.
Gotcha.
And the pods will tour through. And so you don't have a traditional bow at the end because, you're down wherever the last scene is. But yeah, it's really cool. There's every scene kind of how the play starts. The premise of the play is like and this is what's crazy too. I will say this. It's Game 7, 2024 World Series between the Padres, and the Texas Rangers.
Wow.
Just by fluke, like we're like, what? Like, thank you, Rangers.
Yeah.
So it's between those two guys, and it's out at Petco Park. It's your Padres Stadium. And you start in the press room, and there's a question that's asked by somebody who you don't see, but you're meeting the manager of the team who's doing a pre-game press conference, and somebody posits the question to him, "Hey, I heard your star pitcher is not going to pitch out of protest tonight." And he's like, "What are you?" And so nobody's sure, and then the scene ends, and you go, and so it's kind of that rumor that trickles all the way down, and you don't meet this pitcher until the last scene of the play, and you don't know what he's going to do.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask. So, like, even if you're a different pod, you're still going in the same sequence?
You are going in sequence of the play, yeah.
Okay.
But literally, like, you meet a whole different, wide assortment of characters, because, like, that was the thing, the guys who wrote it, there's a really great interview with them where they talked about, they both are huge baseball fans. One of them, long-suffering Cubs fan, and I can't remember the other guy's team. But they were just talking about how, when you sit at a game, there's so many different stories in the stadium, and it really does bring people of all different income levels and stories and stuff into one area, more so than any other sport, because you can everybody can afford a single ticket, right? Whereas like with some of the bigger bigger stadiums, you can't. I mean, you can't, even the upper level, you're like, how much is this? I can't go on. Is it free tonight?
Especially when they're doing well.
Yeah, exactly. So they started thinking about like also just the fact that over half of the major stars of the in the Major League Baseball are Latino. And just like just looking at like where they come from and like some of the things how they get these guys, and where they like there's what do you call it, not farms, but there's like these things called academies. Where it's almost like where they kind of train players. They take kids at an early age, which are a little shady. Not gonna,
Oh, there's a lot of players.
There's a lot of shady action.
They don't know how old they even are. Yeah.
100%. Right. So it kind of looks at this, but at the same time, like where are all the Latino managers and people that speak Spanish, and like it's finally I loved it this year during the World Series that they were like doing some interviews in Spanish. I was like, yeah, man, that's awesome.
Right.
Like, I thought that was cool. Yeah. Anyway, so it kind of gets into a little bit all that, but ultimately it's just really fun. Like, because you're, as a patron, you're like going to these places you never go to. You're learning a lot of stuff about baseball that, like, frankly, I didn't know. I mean, we've got the San Diego. I seen between the San Diego Chicken and the Swinging Friar. Like, I'm not kidding. The mascots, the full mascots.
Ah, wow.
Yeah,
that's cool.
We do have a scene between like 2 people who are working concessions. Like so you really get to see different.
I like that. I'm going to see the show.
Different. Please come out. But it's a lot of fun. And it's 1 week only, at 5 shows. Where where the Rough Riders play, y'all, and that's where Evan Carter comes from. So come on with it. Let's be real. Like, he really came directly from there, which is so crazy.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then Shape is going to happen in a CrossFit gym, like at D-Town CrossFit.
Right.
So it's a little bit more like where you're going to sit down and the play is going to be all around you.
Okay.
But like it is about a woman, middle-aged lady who's like, I want to lift weights, and just the idea of like, what is your body? And it's funny,
Yeah.
super funny.
Huh.
And you've got two other characters that are multiple people, from anything from like, your like really stoic Texas trainer, because the woman moved here from New York and now she's going to this gym, and the guy's like, I'm just your trainer, lady, like chill out.
Yeah.
To like, I'm Debbie Allen now, or I'm like your dad, or whatever, So like it's really theatrical, really a lot of fun.
Just
so
moving
that will
around.
be at D-Town Fit, which is in the design district.
That's cool. I feel like you're missing a huge opportunity though,
What's that?
because like
Tell
you've
me.
got this theater that needs to have work done. Like there's got to be like an immersive show about construction where you could like have the audience pick up.
I know, but
things
our
and-
insurance wouldn't like that very much.
Okay, there's workarounds. There's issues we have
Yes.
to work out, but okay.
No, exactly. My luck would be like, oh, and somebody trips on something, and it's like, and now the
Yeah.
theater is closed.
Yeah. Well, the hospital wing would be part of the show. You'd have to have like a medic
Yeah,
back there.
100%.
But
100%.
let's go back to the beginning. Like, so when
Sure.
you were growing up, like when you were a kid, were you like look at me, I'm a performer? Were you like, how early was it where you started to go, I kind of like this like thing? This
It was
performing?
pretty. I mean, it was pretty early for me. So like, I was an only child for 8 years. The best years of my life, I always say to my sister. My sister's 8 years younger than me, but I also didn't have cousins on one side either for a long time. So I was the only kid for 8 years.
Yeah.
So totally rotten. But we moved around a lot, so I was always having to like, look at me, I'm fantastic, I'll be your friend, or whatever. Like where we moved to new schools, right?
Right.
And I was really tall and really pale. I just say that because I got teased. I always got called Casper or Witch or whatever because I was like see-through white with this really dark hair. But I was really good at reading. And so I had a lot of teachers that would encourage me. This is how old I am. Would encourage me to like read the film strips because they would show the film and you'd have
Sure.
to read the narration.
Yep.
And I would always really perform them. And I had a couple of teachers who were really encouraging with like, let's do a skit or whatever. And you're like, who wants to get up and do Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or something? You're like, I will perform it, of course. So I was a big ham. And so that was definitely, I kind of had the bug early. And my mom, there's always a running joke in our family because for both my sister and I, my sister is not a performer and is very reserved. She mistakenly read the school calendar thing. And so it was like, oh, it's dress up day or whatever at school, and dressed us in some costume. And you go and it's like, I am the only person dressed in a costume. Fantastic. And so like yes.
Wow.
So I was like in second grade in Baytown, Texas, because it was our new place. And it was like Bicentennial Day or whatever. And so I was dressed in like this long quilted skirt, and I borrowed one of my mother's shirts, and I was like, I'm going to be Betsy Ross, and I had this hat and a flag with a needle and all this. And I get to school and people are like, like, what is wrong with you or whatever. And my teacher leaned into it and was like, Tina is so patriotic or whatever. And so she's like, Tina, would you like to talk? And so I did this ridiculous improv. I still remember it because I was like, everybody was making fun of me and I didn't understand what was happening. So I was like, I did an improv about I'm Betsy Ross and how my hands were arthritic or something. Like I'm sewing the
Right.
flag and it's like, my hands.
Right.
And people were like, okay, great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I toyed a little bit when I was a child. Like I loved horses, so I thought I'd be a horse jockey, but I was already too tall, so that went in the toilet. And then my biography that I wrote of myself, or autobiography I wrote of myself in 5th grade, says that maybe I should, come up with the cure to cancer because a lot of people have it. But then I gave up with that. No. So I pretty much leaned into performing and had teachers that encouraged me to be a performer from early on, and then I really stepped into it like 5th and 6th grade.
Yeah.
Because we teachers were a little wilder then. They're like, we're going to put on a production of Annie or whatever, and it's like, you're going to be in it. And you know,
Oh, yeah. I used to
feel-
love theater. That was like the best part of high school to me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it really does. Like, it's a place where everyone fits.
Mm-hmm.
And, and there's always something for somebody. And it's my favorite collection of weirdos,
Yeah.
And if
Definitely.
you've got a great teacher, I mean, I know there's, not everybody's the world's greatest teacher, but I lucked out and had some teachers that were very encouraging to me as a young person. And like, I really felt like I'm good at this, and this is where I belong. So
That's cool that you had that.
yeah. So, and then I went to SMU and met everybody which is why I'm at Kitchen Dog, you know?
Right. So like, so this is like, because when I went to theater school, I'm only a little bit older than you, but it was kind of like, you know, like there wasn't film school really. It was only theater
right?
school. And so like, and I was clear that I wasn't going to do theater professionally at that point.
Right.
Having said that, I wish I had time to do a play. It is the most fun thing in the world.
Oh yeah.
So I'm curious, like at what point, like, I mean, because from what I've read about you, and based on being so involved with the theater, it's like a big part of your acting and your career.
Yeah.
So like, was there a point where you thought like, I have to do TV, or like, how did that all happen for you?
No, it was one of those things where it was like, you know, I just got out of school. I just started working. I was a waiter, like all of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, killing it at Lucky's. And then I got an agent, because a lot of people get agents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, yeah, I can, you know, let's try it. Like I really I didn't have very much experience doing film. I had zero experience. So like got an extra part where I was like walking in the background of a bank commercial, which was great. And then, you know, you start getting auditions, and I got lucky because I got some auditions early. And they helped me understand more of the medium, if that makes sense. So, like, there was one of my earlier jobs. I guess, granted, that was like 99, maybe. I mean, I did some little bit things here and there, but got my big break, or big job. First big job was like I was in Dr. T and the Women with Robert Altman,
right,
which shot here.
Oh wow!
And yeah, and that movie's not the greatest or whatever. But the thing is, you're with Robert Altman, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, like, the legend, and rightfully so.
Sure.
And the whole, like, he loves theater. And, you know, I was on some walkers and stuff like that before that, where you're like, oh, I'm 2 lines, you know, put this on your lady friends tab. I think it's actually one of my lines. Still get some residuals from your Love the Walker. But yeah, on that film, like, the first audition was literally like, they didn't give you any sides. So you're like, what is this? And you're sitting on the couch, and then you go in and you're like, oh, I'm just going to sit down with Robert Altman and his first AD, and Tommy, his first, you know, all these guys. Sit down with them. And it's just an interview. And he's just talking to you for like 35, 40 minutes. And he loves theater. So we talked about theater. We talked about improv. And then the callback, they said, okay, come in, you know, because it was all about a gynecologist. It was like, come in with a condition that you'd go to the gynecologist for. And we're just going to, you know, you're going to be called in. It's a lot an hour. And you're going to be called in just this improv.
Huh. Wow.
Which was crazy,
yeah.
You know? So you're in there with like, I don't know, 15 ladies, and you're improving. But then he pulled me and somebody else out and was like, hey, I want you to do this, and, you know, I want you to XYZ. And so what ended up was the people like me, and there were 3 other ladies that he pulled aside, we ended up being nurses in the doctor's office. And he told us, he's like, look, ladies, like, you're not going to feel like you're going to, you know, because maybe you don't have a scene where you have big lines or whatever. But he's like, I'll make you a lot of money and you'll be here every day. And we're like, great.
Sure.
Yeah. And he was like, you know, it was perfect, because I also was directing a play at night. So, like, we got out. He was like, we started in the morning and we ended at a certain time. Like, and the crew
sounds beautiful.
And the crew loved it, you know, because we were
Yeah.
like, we're done at 5:30, and he'd like, let's watch dailies. If you could stay, you'd watch dailies and have snacks with him. But I couldn't stay, unfortunately. I had to go to rehearsal. But yeah, it was one of the best learning experiences for me, because one, you're with a master, and he's like, Tina, this is what I want you to do, and this camera's going to follow you here. So this is the move I need you to make. So you're like part of these master Altman shots. And he's like, it's going to go here, and then it's going to transfer to here, and this is where I need you to go. And you're like, oh, okay.
Huh.
And, you know.
Wow.
So you're just learning all camera angles. You're learning all sorts of stuff, because you're like, oh, it's following my shoulder. Oh, it's on my back. Oh, it's doing this, and he wants me to do this, and that's going to help the camera go this way.
Wow. Yeah, because I mean...
sorry, that was a very long story about Robert, but it was an amazing experience.
It was a great story.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like, because that's the transition. Like, you're in theater school, and then now you're on a set, and like, they're not talking about like how much of that is like blocking, and how much you're not going to actually even be doing anything all day, and all that stuff. You know?
And how you're not... Are you going to be seen? You don't even know what people are going to... What are you seeing of me?
Yeah.
And then, like, sometimes your way you turn, like, no, that's the wrong, like, in your mind, oh, this is this way, and it's like, no, it's actually...
And Robert Altman is your first teacher of that stuff. That's amazing. Yeah. That is amazing.
Yeah, so I got lucky in that regard, you know, like, And then, there's little jobs here and there. And of course, then got the big break to be on
Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
So how did that audition work?
That was here because Tony, there was a casting person who was casting local at that time for them. And got the sides. And I read it and I was like, oh, this is going to be a big boobed blonde woman. Like, I just was like, it's not because of the sides,
Sure, yeah.
So I was like, I don't think this is going to be me, but whatever. She's calling me in, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, it was a lot of innuendo. Like, our first scene was like, and you're killing me with that booty and all this stuff. And there was another scene that got cut. It was all about, he was very, very Saul.
Yeah.
Full tilt Saul. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to dress how I feel I look good or whatever, and who cares? Like, and I walk in, and I'm like, at the time, because it's the late 90s, I was really into like rockabilly, and I had this like cute little sassy dress that had cherries on it, and I was like, I'm wearing this or whatever. I feel great in this outfit.
Nice.
And did my makeup, and I go in, and like literally everybody's in business casual, blonde, kind of fancy, and everybody's like looking at me like, wow. Like, wow, you made a choice or whatever.
Hilarious.
And I was like, oh well, what.
What were you gonna do? Choose to be blonde and big titted?
Well, you're like, I can't go back in time and choose a business outfit. Like, I was like, oh, well.
I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I walked in and I was like, oh crap. Like, I didn't think about that. I didn't.
Had the show been on the air? Had you seen it yet?
I don't know.
Okay, so you didn't even know what the look was. Like, this is all just from your
I knew
brain.
nothing about it really.
Okay.
And this is a new character too, so we didn't like we were introduced at the same time. So nobody has any idea.
Okay, yeah.
And you don't really know, like, because a lot of times with those shows, sides will be jacked with, so you're not like, I don't even know where I am in this time or what is
cut
this.
Together different scenes to make it
and you're like,
long
I
enough.
think it's for this, but I don't know. Whatever.
Sure.
Just to keep stuff secret, but yeah. So I went in and I had a lot of fun, and Tony's like, that was hilarious, and I felt great. Left, it's like that's all you can do, right?
Sure.
Like I feel like that's the best. The best auditions I have is like, do the best you can. You feel good about it, then leave it. Because otherwise you're going to get into like, why didn't they choose me? Or you're thinking about like, what do they want?
Sure.
Then you're like, it doesn't work because it's not, what do I have?
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, for actors.
I can say it 5,000 times, but like, and I always have to keep saying it.
Yeah.
Because especially now that we've been on strike, well, we just finally came off strike. But while we were, it's easy to get in that mindset of like, if you're not booking for a little bit, like, okay, what is it that they want? And it's like, then you forget, like, everybody's doing that. They're looking for the thing that's unique. And bring yourself, and if they want that, that's great. And if they don't, they just want a different flavor, and you can't overthink why they didn't choose you.
Right.
So anyway, I auditioned, didn't hear anything, so I figured I didn't get it. I was sitting in this audition for like a bite and smile, like some chips or something that I will never book, because as soon as I talk, my voice is kind of low, and they're like, you're not a mom. And I was like, no, I'm not, or whatever, So I never booked those. So I was sitting there, and my agent called me, and she was like, probably paged me at that time, but was like, hey, can you be on a plane in 3 hours? And I was like, what? And luckily I wasn't in a play, because that would have been a lot harder.
Sure.
But I was like, yes. And she's like, they want you to come. You booked it. You're going to go to this thing. And I was like,
wow.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
So I literally was like, ran home.
I got chills just now.
It's totally nuts. Threw the stuff into a bag. Like, I was like, do I bring the clothes I wore to the audition? Like, I don't know what I do. Like,
right.
Robert, can you watch my cat or whatever? And like, get on the plane, get there, and get to the little hotel. And I'm like reading the cast list. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's Bob Odenkirk or whatever. And I was like, Mr. Show, like freaking out,
right.
So freaked out. But yeah, that's what it was. And then like, what's interesting is in season 4, my big thing in Breaking Bad, when, I have a great scene with Walt, there was this podcast about Breaking Bad where they're interviewing Vince, and they're like, oh, how did you, because they talk about me, because it's like,
Sure.
How did you find her or whatever? And he's like, it's funny. And my friend was like, you have to listen to this. And I was like, what are you talking about? But he was saying it's funny because they kept showing him women he didn't want. Like, he's like, no, I want something different. I don't want, the blonde with big boobs, like what everybody thought it was going to be, right?
Yeah.
And the casting director, the Kira, who's kind of the New Mexico casting person, was like, well, there's this girl, and I really like her. I don't think she's right for this. But here's her tape. And he's like, this is what I want. And that's why then I was on the plane.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. But, I mean, that should be a lesson to actors. It's like you really have to just trust what you have. Like, you put your work in.
That's all you got.
Yeah.
Put your work in, know your lines, figure out some, make a choice, and then lean into it. I mean, like, And because you're not going to be able to morph this into like, I'm not going to automatically turn into Brie Larson or something,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be Halle Berry anytime soon. So
Right.
this is what I got.
Yeah.
And how do you use that to bring this character? Like, they're obviously called you in because they saw your headshot.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't disguise what you look like or
Exactly.
what you, whatever. So it's like, okay, well, this is what I have to bring. And if you like it, then great.
Yeah, that's cool. So that show is like huge. And then
Yeah.
for me, from an outside perspective, I came to it all late, but like the spin-off of Saul makes the most sense in retrospect to me. Like when you found out you were going to that one, what was that like?
It was kind of crazy because like I found that there was going to be the spinoff, but then like I didn't get called, and I was like, and I watched the first season, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm not.
Oh, you weren't even in the first season. Oh, because
no.
they went back in time and
yeah, they
forward
went back
in
and
time.
like set him up, and then
Yeah.
I was like, oh, maybe they're going a totally different, okay. And I kept kind of hoping, of course you hope because you're like,
Sure.
oh, I'm with this character.
Yeah.
And then when I finally got the call to come in, I think I'm season 3. I can't remember. I think I'm season 3 of Saul. It's when my character starts, when they have my intro, my origin story, when she's nice and happy and wears pink and stuff.
Right.
The writers just
It is one of the best shows ever, for sure.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, because a lot of them are from
Yeah.
Breaking Bad.
For me personally, I like Better Call Saul better,
great.
personally.
No,
but,
it's good.
Yeah.
But just the detail, like
Mm-hmm.
there's no lift. Like you just read what they wrote, and you're like, oh, okay, I know where you're at.
Yeah.
I know what's happening.
Yeah. Was there any improv on that stuff, or?
Almost never.
Yeah.
They're real letter perfect on that
I would
show.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah, if something doesn't feel right, like you can discuss it. There's usually always a writer on set. I mean, not usually. There is a writer on set always.
Mm-hmm.
But they're pretty stringent about, like, get your lines right. But very, very minimal. Like, maybe there'll be something where they'll let you, or they'll give you a take where you can go a little wild or
But that's
something.
a take, so they can go back to the original if they want to, right? Right.
Yeah, but normally they use the take.
That's Gilliam, right? That's his thumbprint, basically.
It's him and Peter Gould. Peter Gould is who created Saul, and
Okay,
he's
right.
technically the showrunner on Saul.
Okay.
But yeah.
Was it the same though on both of them? Breaking Bad the same way, kind of, where it's like real specific with your dialogue?
100%.
Yeah.
Like, and that was what was so great about it. Like, it was one of the first shows that I'd been on, definitely the first TV show I'd been on, where they really had their thumb and they had their fingers in all the pies. So, like, I remember going to get my first costume fitting, and I have, like, one line, like, because the script, the one scene, the other scene I had, they shot it, but they cut it. They had color palettes that everybody stayed in, and, like, color palettes for the season, and, like, certain characters you couldn't get into their palette, like, because that was, like, if they wanted to choose something to me, we're staying out of this palette, 'cause that's Walter, that's, Skylar, or whoever. Like, there were certain things, like, you have to be careful with color palette and texture, and, like, they sent, like, so many choices for me, and everybody he would choose, they would have, on both shows they were consultants with either legal things or science things to make sure that they weren't just wheels off fiction. But yeah, it's just like they were all really, really into the details.
Yeah, it's cool. It doesn't surprise me though, because it looks like it was really like somebody really, or more than one person was really like, this is how I want it to be.
And that's from top to bottom. So like not only on the writers, showrunner side, but even I would say from the actors down. So and that kind of, it kind of just generates, I don't know how to describe it, but like there was such a positive vibe on that set, and everybody was invested in its success, from the top to the lowliest PA, even though PAs do a lot of heavy lifting.
Oh yeah.
So from the top to tail, everybody wanted the show. Everybody was invested. Everybody was excited about the scripts.
That's the
Everybody's
best.
excited about
Yeah.
sure there were long days. I'm sure there were, people getting cantankerous or whatever, but like, I mean, it was crazy. Like, I have a few, I have like 9 episodes or whatever it is of Breaking Bad, and you come to set and, Bryan Cranston's like, how are you, Tina? How's your theater? And you're like, how do you remember any of this stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a cool dude. I
so
was
personable.
Yeah.
And same thing with Aaron Paul. Like, same thing. I'm
Yeah.
just like, so friendly. Hey, do you want something? I'm going to get it for you. You're like, why are you
You know,
getting
it's
me
funny.
a
They
drink?
came to promote their tequila, and I shot them for
Oh, they're so
Observer.
nice.
And yeah, like Aaron was like, "Come here. What's your name?" You know, and I was like, "I don't. You know, it's. I appreciate. I don't. But okay, cool." And like Brian, I used to work out extra on a show next to, whatchamacallit, what was that show he was on? Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh, cheers.
Yeah, and he was really just every time we bumped into him, he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I mean, he was, you know, he had already done Seinfeld, obviously, but he was, you know, that show. You know, if you watched
Yeah.
that show, you knew he was going to be really big, but not a
Yeah.
lot of people were watching it, I guess. That, you know,
Right.
So,
But yeah, just super personable and super, just so nice. Both shows were like that. Same
Yeah.
thing with Bob and Ray and
yeah.
all those
oh, God,
guys.
Bob Odenkirk is one of the best.
And smart as smart
Yeah.
as a whip. Like
Yeah.
just a font of knowledge and like voracious reader.
Sure.
Lover of vinyl, like he loves
Oh,
his
yeah.
records. Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh, like I just remember standing in line at lunch and hearing him and Michael McKean talk about music, and you're just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm just gonna follow you guys.
Yeah,
You know,
for
'cause
sure. It was funny because I just telling you, I worked at Second City when he was in the show, and then I moved to LA and I was in Andy Dick's band, so I was hanging out with him, and Bob was doing a one-man show that Andy would be in. And so it was like down at, where was it? The 3rd Street Promenade. And it was like, you know, there'd be like 15, 10 people a show. I must have gotten to 20 of those. And
my
it
gosh.
was so amazing. Yeah. Bob was amazing for a while, but it took him a while to really get on the radar for people. Like he's another one that just, I felt like he was, I mean, he perfected a lot of he got a lot better as an actor, but he just started so, like, I was like, he is amazing now. Why doesn't everybody get it? You know, it just took a
Yeah.
while, you know?
Well, and I think too, like for him, just to believe that he was an actor, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, because he was a comedian and he was a
Yeah.
writer. He's so good at all those things. And then like people are like, no, you're actually a really good actor. And he's like, meh, you know, like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, no, you're a really good actor.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, and funny too, because you know, a lot of people don't know that he helped a lot of those Chris Farley scenes get written, like that motivational speaker.
Oh yeah.
That was him. So I mean, I worked there at that time, and man, you could not get a drink, a seat, because everyone that worked there would just sit and watch that scene. I must have seen that scene, like, you know, my name is Chris, I'm a motivational speaker. It's just like the best. And Bob wrote that with him. Bob wrote a lot of that stuff with him. People
Yeah.
don't know that, you know. Like
I
Bob
saw
really
that.
was,
I think I saw that when we were there on the spring break.
You did?
Yeah.
Yes,
Because
yes.
I just remember Chris Farley was like we're like, that guy's this.
You can't see anything but him, and like
No.
like I don't remember who's in the scene. I know Bob wrote it, so I know who's in it. But like the original scene, I don't even remember who was in it. And then when they did on SNL, I couldn't even sit. They could not laugh through the whole thing.
No,
you
because
know?
it's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So anyway, one like just fun thing I noticed when I was doing my research is that you were in a 99% rated Rotten Tomatoes movie and a 27% Rotten Tomatoes movie, which is very cool that you even have that. But
It's true.
yeah, wait, I think I had the name. I thought I
Oh,
didn't.
no.
It was, what was it? It was something about virginity. Oh yeah,
The
the
Virginity
virginity hit.
Hit.
That was your 27%.
Yeah, that was mostly all improv movie. It was fun to shoot, and we shot it
Oh.
in New Orleans.
Well, then I'm mad at Rotten Tomatoes. Like, you know, come on, it's improv.
Yeah,
You know.
it was, you know, I don't even know if I've watched it, but it was fun to shoot. We had a good time shooting it.
Right.
Yeah, and we were, you know, it was, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and so we were saying too how it's cool the strike is over.
Thank you, Lord.
Yeah, like
We've all got to ratify it, granted.
great.
But it is-
Yeah, yeah.
It is over, technically.
Are you? I'm friends with Molly Hagan from way back. She's
okay.
Yeah, and I've been following her path of the strike. But I mean, what are we gonna do? I mean, this is just 3 years. I mean, AI is it's gonna be harder
AI
and
is
harder.
scary.
Yeah,
And this is why the strike, I mean, that's one of the big reasons why we had to strike now. Because it felt like, at least from what I understood and what I read, and in talking to other colleagues, I have local folks who are SAG members here, we had to do it now because otherwise it's just going to keep going to the point where you can't go back.
yeah,
And just, you know, I just couldn't believe that it was even on the table that they're like, oh, we're going to scan you and then we're going to use your image.
yeah,
It's like, what?
yeah.
And not pay you for it? What?
Ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many people that, you know, work as background actors. That's how they make their living.
Uh-huh.
And also, you know, it's not just like, oh, you're going to scan, you know, because granted, probably like big stars like George Clooney could be like, no, you're not scanning me or whatever. But regular working actors like me or like people who are a background actor, like what would stop them from scanning me or like, oh, all of a sudden we're going to have a sex scene that you didn't approve and we're going to put your face on a body that's
Yeah.
similar to yours.
Yeah.
What's to stop
No,
that?
I remember I did a lot extra work in the 90s.
That's how a lot of people make money.
Well, right, and I remember back then that they were talking about scanning, and I feel like a few people did like get paid like another $100 or something. Yeah. And so I mean the fact that but that was the technology was nothing like it is now. So
No, and like I think I just saw today, I was watching television, the morning news program, and they were saying about how Bad Bunny is like just raising all sorts of hell because somebody kind of AI TikToked a voice that sounds like it sounds like him,
right?
But it's a TikTok song. It's not his, but it sounds like him. And all these people are like 1 million people have downloaded it. Everybody loves the Bad Bunny, and he's like, ah!
Oh yeah.
And like somebody took a Beyonce song and made it sound like Rihanna.
It's going to be, this is like our future. I mean,
I know.
Like watching Harrison Ford like play, like in The Godfather or something crazy, that's like that's what people are going to want. It sucks.
Or put themselves in there.
Or even better. They already have apps. I saw this one girl that I know, and she's attractive, and I was like, I didn't know she was wait a minute, what the hell is going on here? It's ridiculous. And that's just ridiculous. A person, like not an actor even, so.
Well, and especially because it's like, that's how people make their money. My face, my body, my voice, my skill, like the things I went to school for and trained for, and body of work or whatever. It's like that's what I've got to sell as an actor.
Yeah.
And so you use AI, then it's like, okay, I don't have a job anymore. Like, how does this work?
Yeah,
who wants to watch a show of AI?
No, there would have been a strike for a year straight or whatever it took.
If they did, I'm curious to see what's on because I've not seen the deal yet.
Okay, yeah.
But I know that was one of the first, the pushbacks this week was like,
I
AI
saw a lot of people talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that it's, hopefully our residuals have improved because that was the other big sticking point was streaming. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because everything streams now, but the contract, that was the big loophole. It's like, we're still producing it under this.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I mean, because I stopped even trying to act before all that really happened. And I mean, I remember thinking, like, reading about the Orange is the New Black cast, and I was like, I cannot believe how little actually now I do, but it's just like, it's crazy BS,
And they say like, we don't want to, we're not going to give you we won't share the data because, this, that. And it's like, of all the places that have the data, you have it because it's computers or whatever. Somebody is streaming it. You know exactly how many times.
Oh, there's no question that they know.
But like there's people on Suits. They're supposedly the most downloaded show, billion views, and so much so that they're going to reboot the universe or whatever. Of Suits.
Yeah. I admit I watched it.
Yeah, but I doubt that they're when you stream on a platform, like your residuals are cockadoodle.
Yeah, if anything, yeah, it's
not good.
It's maddening because we're all like, we're gonna cut the cord with cable, and then you like, so now we're screwing everybody that we're watching basically without realizing it.
Well, now those streamers are gonna go up, so I'm curious to see what's gonna happen.
Well, I think what's gonna happen is like things like Disney and Hulu bundling. It's gonna start to be bundles, and then before
they just bought them, didn't they?
Yeah. Okay, maybe that's what it was. Okay.
They don't have enough money to pay everybody, but they bought Hulu for billions of dollars.
Exactly. We're not gonna talk about Mauschwitz on this show.
Okay, sorry. No, no Mouse House. Quiet. I love you, Disney. Please hire me.
Right. I mean, I am not trying to be an actor anymore. I will admit, I quit and came back to it many times. I am so happy to have no need to go back just because of the years of rejection I experienced in LA.
It's hard.
It's ridiculous.
It's brutal as an actor. I mean, it's not only like just rejection, because that's the other thing is like people will see like an actor's like how much you get paid, right? Like on a job.
Sure.
And it's like, yeah, but do you understand? I'm lucky if I book this maybe 4 times a year or something.
God.
Or like if
I didn't book 4 times a year. I booked. I mean,
maybe. And a lot of times you're like some of the things like you're saying like, oh, you're on the Virginity Hit, or like I was on a witch western or whatever. That kind of these indie projects, and it's like. Yeah, but that's like low budget SAG, which is like way down here a day, and for 3 days or for 2 days here or whatever.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got to pay to drive there, and you've got to do this, and you've got to blah, blah, blah. And you've got to pay your agent, and you've got to pay taxes, and you've got to do this. So here's what you get on the side or whatever.
It's hard. I mean, I was just talking to a band, and it's like, I mean, that seems even harder than at least there's paths to like you can make a living. I mean, maybe you're not going to be like a billionaire from it just from being a working actor, but being a blue collar actor, making your living off it is very respectable. And
it's also like, I mean, frankly, like I don't make enough to make my living. I run a theater company.
Yeah.
And combined, I also don't make very much as a theater company runner. So you put it together and you're like, still sad or whatever, but I can sort of make it work or whatever.
Yeah.
And some years are great, like years when you're like I was on Saul and you got a lot of episodes, great. One year I only got one, so it wasn't, it was all right. It was great. But,
Right.
And just to loop back on the rejection, it's not just like you don't get a job. It's also like sometimes you get the thing and you're like, oh my God, is this what you think I am? So, like I'm a plus size lady and you'll get something that's like fat as hell or whatever, like obese, crazy looking, doesn't know if it's a woman or a man.
Oh, God.
I mean, crazy descriptions where you're like, does it pay American dollars? Is it really, is it funny? Like, is it this?
Yeah.
And you decide, but it can be where,
It's
it'll
brutal.
make you, it's brutal or like, crazy short, fat Italian, blah, blah, blah. I have a friend who's like a shorter Italian guy. And he's like, he always jokingly sends me like, look at what I got today.
Yeah.
Even uglier Paul Giamatti type or whatever. And I was like, I was like, that is a terrible thing. Yeah, it's brutal. But, like anybody who's a character actor, you're like,
Yeah. And also I got like when I first moved here, I was still doing acting. I would drive down to Austin, drive back so much. It was ridiculous. And I got a part on American Crime and I was all excited. And then I learned my lines and I get there and they're like, do the Miranda rights, which I somehow pulled out of my ass and did out of nowhere. And then they cut the whole fucking thing. You see my arm. Does it. And I mean, I was so worked up for that. I remember I was trying to impress some girl. She wasn't even impressed that I was on the show before I got cut, Same thing happened on Friday Night Lights. So it was an improv,
oh, God.
And I was like the angry guy in the restaurant and the waitress was the daughter and the parents were there. And me and the actress like kind of got into because it's improv. So we kind of got into a screaming match, which was fine. And it's just like, why would this dude, like, literally, it's like, it was so stupid and they just cut all out. And, like, she never did her one line that would have kept me in. And I was like, why didn't you do that? And she's like, my character wouldn't have done it. And I'm like, it's in the script. Your character would have fucking done. Like, thank you for cutting me out of the
worst,
scene.
isn't it? It is the worst. I've been cut a number of times, and it is the worst.
Yeah.
Because my most recent one I was on, I had I thought really cool scene, and everybody loved it on set, on Outer Range, the show that was on Amazon. Josh Brolin and all that.
Yeah.
And I had this really crazy wheels off, and I was like, oh, right, I can't wait to see it. Like, just nuts. And we screamed all, like it was another one where it was a couple that was having this argument. Like somebody's probably whacked out on something, but I looked crazy and raving a gun around and stuff. Yeah, and it was super fun. And everybody, the producer was like, oh my God, so great. Totally cut. Like I was so excited. I was like watching it, and I was like, oh, they just jumped us. And then I was like, and then I watched the rest of it and I was like, okay, I get why they jumped us, but still sad. I was like, can I at least have that footage, please?
Exactly. Yeah. Like I've tried to
wish.
get old footage too. Yeah. Anyway.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, so now that the strike's over,
Yeah.
the theater's going to start what's on the horizon for you? What's next?
Really just hopefully surviving us renovating this building because it's a lot. I mean, it's hard. None of us are, none of us have ever done it. Renovated $1 million building before.
There's not like a construction actor people.
Yeah, exactly.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm telling you that my idea, you can have it. I won't take anything from you for it.
I may have to touch base with you about that. But yeah, just that renovation and then surviving the crazy out of the box, because I ain't young. Let's be real. And so the idea of, traveling around, take this show on the road.
Yeah.
While it's great, and I think it's going to be really, the shows are fun, and I think the patrons are going to have a great time. It can be a little daunting on the onset. Like, I'm preparing for the worst so that it won't be as bad as I think it's going to be.
Gotcha, yeah.
But, you're just not, the things that you're normally are like, okay, and we just do this and this, and, if we just do this with the lights, it'll work.
Sure. None of that.
There's none of that. There's no, all the variables are, truly, who knows or whatever. Let's hope it works. And we'll rehearse it, but still, it's just.
Yeah, I get it. It's like you don't.
It's a dice roll every show, and there's not a given.
Yeah, well, because it's always a dice roll every production. So, but at least when you have your home base, that's one thing out of the equation. But you guys everything is up in the air.
There's no, it's no and this is what will happen in tech, and this is what will happen here. It's like, okay,
how do you tech the show at the baseball field?
Well, there's not going to be. What's interesting is you use the stadium. We're not building a set.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because you're using the stadium. You're going to use the lighting that's in the rooms that exists in the rooms. There are 2 scenes. That have sound cues, so there will have to bring in some sound to support it. And then we're using the sound system in the park.
This is blowing my mind.
And we're using the Rider Vision Jumbotron.
Oh my god!
That's where our playbill is going to be. That's going to establish that we're at Petco Park.
How many people like in a pod for the show?
It depends on how many we have a night, but more than likely it'll be like 20-ish,
Well, like
20,
how many?
25.
Like if you were sold out for one night, like how many people would that be?
20 to 25.
I mean, like the total, like the whole night.
Oh, I would say 100 to probably about 100 folks
Okay.
a night.
Okay.
Maybe. I mean, it just depends. I mean, we think we can get up to like 125. So anywhere
Okay.
from that.
That's a good problem to have, actually.
It's a really good problem to have,
Yeah.
especially this day and age, because it's like I'm hoping that this, because, you know, during the pandemic, a lot of people got used to staying at home, myself included.
Oh.
And so it's like, okay, well, how can I motivate you to to leave your couch? Because I know, because my couch is comfortable too, and I love my cats, and I love my life, you know, sitting around. Like, it's hard for me to get out and go see a rock show or go see another play, and it's like, come on. The live experience is really like, it's better than the record. It's better than the TV show.
Sure.
I mean, we've got some quality of both of those things, but like, it's like nothing else.
Yeah. No, there's that element that's not going to be there at home, no matter what.
Exactly. So, you know, and as we're embarking on about to open this, you know, $1 million theater, we need audience. We need, and Dallas theaters right now are definitely struggling to get our crowd back out post-pandemic.
I mean, like I've been hearing this about venues, like music venues, the same exact thing. It's just,
Yeah, and
it's tricky.
It's just really, and it's not, there's not like a science to it.
No.
Because you'll be like, oh, this show is going to sell. And then it's like, crickets, you know, like, oh, no,
Yeah.
you're just your true believers come. And then you're like, this one will not. And then tons of people will come. And it doesn't make any sense. We've also lost a ton of media coverage for the arts. So it's also like nobody knows when stuff's happening. So how do you even get the word out about it?
It's a challenge. I mean, I'm in the media, quote unquote, and I don't even know how to cover stuff sometimes. You know, it's just
Totally.
a lot.
So I'm like, one thing that these shows do is they give us, one, access to a different audience, and two, like different opportunities to reach out to different parts of the media that we normally wouldn't be able to talk to. You know, so talking to people in sports radio, talking to, you know, hey, you have a baseball club. Do you want to come and see a show that's, you know, about baseball? You know, like if I give you a discount, you know, like, and
Yeah, I mean,
I
go find
really
little
like
leagues and stuff.
We always said 95% of the battle is just getting them to come in the door.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, maybe you have bad memories of what theater is in your mind. Like, I saw a crappy show when I was in junior high, and theater is boring, or theater. Well, you know what,
I know. I'm
you know, and I
laughing
don't want
'cause
to spend money on that or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, so that's, you know, if I can get you to come out and see it, then you're like, oh, this is actually fun. I don't have to be wear fancy clothes. Parking is free. And frankly, I'll be honest, like if people listen to this and they are struggling, like financially, because we've all been there, Kitchen Dog has a program called Admit All. And because we are firm believers that the arts should be accessible, if you're going to have plays that are about conversation or about political or social justice, or like to raise questions, let's talk about what's going on. We're not giving anybody any answers. We're just saying, let's talk about it. So we want everybody in the room. And we have this thing called Admit All where we hold 20 tickets a night, and they're free.
Wow.
So all you have to do is come down and
cool.
say, hey, I want an Admit All ticket. We give you a little piece of paper. You put out your zip code. You give us your zip code so we can report that back to people who are our grantors, and you get in.
Huh.
And that's it. And
Show
because,
up.
yeah, come on with it. Come on
Wow.
down when it's
Okay.
check-in time. And, you know, there's that allotted amount. So once we run out, we run out. But, yeah, so just
I mean,
know,
that's great. Music venues should do something like that.
well, because it's like not like exactly like you know, especially like we just came out of a strike, right? So I haven't been making a whole lot of money, and there's been a lot of shows that have come through, and I'm like, okay, make a choice because you've got this much money
Right.
to hold. And like I didn't know how long the strike was going to go, so it's like I need to be smart about my money. But yeah, things are just everything's more expensive,
Tell me about it.
right?
Yeah.
So you just know that it's there, and our thought is like, use it when you need it and don't when you don't.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I really like that. That's
Yeah.
you know, if you're out there and you want to see one of these cool shows we're talking about, keep that in mind. If you can't afford it,
100%.
that is not the reason to not go.
Yes, it is not. Yeah,
I just did a double negative.
I love it. It's great because that's how we roll here.
That's right.
In our little studio.
That's
Double
right.
negatives.
That's right.
That's the name of my band.
double
Double negatives. Tita and the Double Negatives.
I like it. I will cover that show.
Well, yeah. Thank you very much.
Tina, this was so fun. I'm so happy you came down, and
All right.
I can't wait to see these shows and see you in action somewhere.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
I'd like to thank my guest, Tina Parker. You can check out Kitchen Dog Theater and all their upcoming shows on the website and the links below. Thank you again to the Deep Ellum Community Center for letting us record there. Theme song, Unstoppable by Salim Nuralla. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, all the good stuff, and share it with your friends. We'll see you next time.